Hey, this is Brent.
Hey, this is Jordan.
What's up? This is Matt.
Hey, this is Sean.
And this is the Digital Ascent Podcast.
Well, with that topic one, then are you ready to?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about it.
In on this. All right, I'm
All
gonna.
right. Yeah.
Topic
Okay.
one.
Topic one is XZUtil's Backdoor. So this is a mind-blowing topic to me, and this vulnerability is like, to me, it's like, I think it would have been much worse than Log4j if it had come all the way to fruition. So let's start at the basics. What is XZUtils? XZUtils is, I believe it's like a program or service on that you find on Linux devices. A lot of mainstream Linux servers have this as a core part of their services baked in there. It is an open source project, and so that means that anybody can contribute or attempt to contribute, and then there's like a small group of people who like actually like decide what code goes in and out, and so on and so forth. All right. So what is this thing? It's a very core piece of software. What is it used for? It's used for lossless data compression, right? So you can take a lot of data and make it smaller. And then what is the most important thing to know here? And that is it's used by the SSH and the SSHD processes when they are running as a system service specifically. I think I'm not necessarily like the world's biggest Linux expert, so I had to do some learning on the fly for this. So that is what XZUtils is. Now, I want to talk about what is this backdoor? This is crazy. So somebody was able to, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about like how did they get there later, but somebody was able to get themselves elevated to a maintainer status. Maybe I'll just cover it now. There's this person or group of people that basically maintained a pressure campaign against this open source project to get them to introduce more features faster. Oh, hey, do this. Oh, hey, do that. Oh, that person did a good job, but they didn't do enough. More. We need this. And I believe they even like acted like a group of people, made up fake identities to act like a lot of people were asking for these features, and the people who are maintaining it like weren't able to keep up with the speed of the requests. And so through doing that, and then through also like contributing to projects and like using an account to contribute to a project and help and so on, they're able to build trust, and they eventually got themselves promoted from a nobody into a position where they were now a maintainer, and into a position where they could approve code changes and they could gatekeep the situation. So now we have this malicious actor in a position of an open source, like in this open source software where they are they're in it where they can start like making changes themselves, right? It's still got to get peer reviewed and everything by other people, but it's still they're in a position of power at this point. So this was hack number one, social engineering. They social engineered themselves into a position of power by doing a pressure campaign and making people feel like they needed to move more quickly. It's actually a really common social engineering tactic because it works, right? So let's talk about the actual exploit now. So the end result here is that the threat actor, whoever they were, really is going to gain the ability to run root access commands remotely without authentication. So what that means is that I can say if your Linux server device, whatever that would have been affected by this, it isn't most likely. But if it was, what would have happened is I could sit, if I was a threat actor, I could sit here and initiate SSH connections or remote control sessions to it. And without needing to authenticate, I can have the server execute commands at root, like make files, delete files, install software, update software, uninstall software, make vulnerabilities for myself, basically whatever I wanted. Now, all of this is really interesting so far, but the thing that blows my mind the most is how they actually did the hack. So they were able to embed code into a certificate. So certificates have some like loose data. And in this case, they were able to get the libzma library that is part of this SSH and SSH daemon service, right? that is found on Linux servers to when it gets these SSH connections from a specific certificate based on a public-private key. And we have covered this in a little bit in some earlier episodes. I don't have them on hand, unfortunately, so I'm not that cool. But basically, they were able to say, well, when this happens and when that happens and when that happens, then run this code that I've put in here. And they're able to do it during the certificate checking process. So the other thing that makes it crazy is that most people, like, they're used to seeing code, like generic data in their certificates. It's not something people regularly look at and inspect. They'll see, oh, that looks like certificate data. This is, as far as I'm aware, this is like a first of its kind hack where you try to get the certificate process and the certificate and you embed the code into the certificate itself. And I watched several videos. We'll include several videos in the show notes. I picked 3 that I like the best that basically go over what is it, and then like how to do it yourself. And it's really wild to watch, this guy sit there and, basically just execute code via SSH without any authentication. In fact, you can see on the terminal, it goes, handshake failed because you didn't authenticate at all.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's wild. So, I mean, that's what it is. Think about how many Linux devices are out there, and how many devices that are like Internet of Things devices that run on Linux that may have SSH on them. I'm thinking about firewalls. I'm suddenly thinking about firewall brands, and I'm wondering what firewall brands I've used that use this libzma library somewhere in it, or xzutils as part of their SSH. I mean, I don't, maybe none, maybe all of them. I don't know. Either way, this is crazy. This would have given somebody out there control of, I don't know, like a limitless number of servers, it feels like, and they could just be root. I mean, just wild stuff. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts about that?
I've got a question.
Okay.
Matt,
Yeah.
This was it was very informative, and I love it. Give me a nutshell, or maybe not a. Give me an elevator. No, not an elevator pitch. Maybe in a nutshell. If I'm a regular person, all right, and I don't have the knowledge that the 3 of us have, why is this important to me? Do I need to care?
It's not. No.
Okay.
No, this is a this is a nerd topic, man. This is so okay. I guess I should get to the why is this not a problem part, because I guess that's a really important component here. All right, yeah. Why is this not a problem? So this isn't a problem because of a single researcher at Microsoft. They were this hack made it into development versions. I want to say it was like of Fedora and Ubuntu and Red Hat. Please do not quote me on that. This is an I think, not an I know right now.
I know Red Hat is one of them because they actually have a CVE listed in their portal. So you're right about that one at the very least. I see that here.
So, so it made it into the dev versions of them. And this Microsoft researcher was working on, I mean, I don't know researching stuff. I didn't look into it too much, into like the what they were doing. And they found that the SSH process was a little bit slower by like milliseconds, basically. Like there's like all their stuff slowed down by like half a second, I think it was. And they noticed this and they were like, well, that's weird. I'm going to go look at that. And they started digging into it and they were like, hold on here. This thing looks a lot like it's trying to execute malicious code, possibly.
Oh my Lord.
So it turns out like there are proof of concept stuff and you can go in there because the hack itself expects you to have a single private certificate, something that you own that proves you are who you say you are, much like a driver's license. And you can just go in there and basically copy paste the certificate out and put in a new one. And it's not that simple, but basically, yes. And then you can go see what it does for yourself. And what it does is it accepts an address and a port, and then it runs commands at root. Okay. What commands? I don't know. What command did you put in there? Did you tell it to curl the Metasploit Python package? Because that's what it did. It put it in the temp directory. Oh, and when it did that, guess what? Now I'm running the Python Metasploit package to, give me more C2 control, right? It's this thing's just boom, nuts for me. I just feel like it's one of like, it's like the biggest near miss I've ever seen in my career. And I don't know if I will ever see a near miss like this again. Surely sometime. I'm young in my career. So there we go.
That was a good little catch on the end there.
Yeah.
Matt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good catch there at the end.
Yeah, no, it was wild though. I mean, it's like seeing the SolarWinds thing. You know, SolarWinds is the biggest hack of my career, right? Biggest like that. That was amazing to watch. You know, like a nation state actor just destroy one of the biggest security companies or I guess, yeah, IT service companies in the world, and then supply chain hack. What, another like 100,000 companies doing that? Just wow.
We've seen a lot of supply chain attacks the past couple of years. I feel like
3CX
3.6
supply chain attack. That was a huge one. SolarWinds, SolariGate is obviously the one that still comes to mind. This is crazy. I personally wonder if this was nation state. Like how much, like who's just sitting there going, I'm gonna first you have to identify a library that's only maintained by a few people. And then you have to identify one that's only maintained by a few people that has a ton of like really juicy targets associated with it, like every Linux server in the world, right? And then you got to pressure campaign your way in there and social engineer your way into something that's like a well-known, reputable open source project that is not going to accept just anybody. It's really, really, really impressive to me personally. And I don't know. I guess that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. I think people forget to just how much is actually running on Unix-based systems in general.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Like your Android phone.
Yeah. Android phones, but just a lot of back-end services that we rely on. I mean,
restaurants.
I'd imagine that there's probably a great deal of financial related stuff that's probably got some sort of Unix backend.
Bet.
Yeah. And we just rely on it because it's just there for us every day. But what happens when it's not? I also wonder, a part of me,
or when it owns you.
Right. Yeah. Another part of me wonders, as time goes on here, and we keep having these conversations about these near misses and these new vulnerabilities and these new ways to get in. I wonder, for these groups, I wonder how much of a factor AI is and how much it's going to continue to be in terms of a tool to help them along the way.
Enormous.
To associate data. You know what I mean? We're saying like, how does someone do this? Well, what if, they're finding the two kind of similar pieces, but then they're leveraging AI in a way where it's like, oh yeah, you've got this and that. You could totally exploit this. You know what I mean? And we all know, like ChatGPT and stuff, they've sort of locked it down from a lot of stuff. There's ways around it all still. There's prompts to feed it to make it all
dance.
Sorts of stuff. Yeah, you can make it dance. And there's other AI platforms out there now too that maybe aren't as popular or well known. I mean, there's tons of stuff out there now that people are using. It wouldn't surprise me if they have their own AI at this point.
Absolutely.
That is just custom made. You know what I mean? So
why not just download any of the open source AIs and then start training it yourself to, never say no to you, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, you said no to me? Downvote. You said no to me? Downvote. You said no to me? Downvote. You said yes to me? Upvote. Like, I mean, my understanding is that's like the basics of how AI training is done, is that you feed it, like you get prompts and responses, and then you yes, no the responses. And once you've yes, no enough responses, it gets an idea of what's good and what isn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bet they do have their own AIs. Alpha V or Black Cat or whatever is probably out there right now for, developing, evil AI, 25,000K killer, business email compromiser, 5,000 bullshit or something. I don't know. And then reselling them. Actually, in fact, it was like 6 months ago, I actually saw an article that somebody was reselling an AI that promised to be the business email compromise, master 5,000. You show up. It was actually, once again, it was kind of cool. You show up and they hand you an AI, like, and you set up your little email relay and you bring your like little CSV of email addresses or whatever you're doing. And then it'll just write emails for you. It'll just write subjects. It'll write, whatever. It'll just do it'll do little phishing emails for you all day long. And you just send. Wild stuff.
It is wild. Because heck, I mean, I use ChatGPT almost daily to rephrase some stuff where I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of conflicted about the flow of this. Give me like 3 suggestions on how this could be better. And I mean, it does a great job with it. So, because I mean, historically, one of the big indicators of a phishing email, spam email, whatever, something malicious is typos, weird phrasing, bad translation, between languages and whatnot, or just like culturally different things. You feed that through AI and that whole factor is out the window now, which makes it even scary. Like, you're going to get a really good looking email, really well formatted, very well phrased, and it's going to be phishing. It's going to be spam.
It's funny. I actually tell people these days that like a super well formatted phrase and like well done email is actually an indicator of compromise now in my mind.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. That is the sad thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Not always, just a little bit though.
Yeah. It's something to think about. Either end of the spectrum. Is it really crappy, really terrible? Or is it
amazing?
Really, really, really good? Especially if it's from somebody and they're not that great at formatting an email, and then all of a sudden they got this like really slick looking email coming through. It's like, nah, that's not how Jordy writes emails. Jordy, are you going to defend yourself?
Absolutely not, because it's a perfect.
He ain't a liar.
No
he ain't a liar. Yeah, he ain't a liar. It's fine.
For everybody at home, I'm just picking on Jordy. His emails are just fine.
No, he's not. He's bullying me.
Why you bullying me? All right, we want to move on to the topic numero dos.
Yeah, okay. So I'll take us through this one again, unless you guys just want to do it. Nah, I'll just do it. All right. So net neutrality is to be reinstated. Net neutrality basically at the very high. Yeah, I'm going to give that a yeah. Also, net neutrality at the highest level basically says that ISPs cannot sell services that let's see, what is it? You can't add preference for you basically can't prioritize traffic based on pay grade that you're like grade that you're paying into. If I give you $5 for 5 megabits, I get 5 megabits of 5 megabits. There's not a carpool lane for me to hop into, basically, if I give you 10 extra dollars. And so this was something that was like really hot to trot in like the mid 2010s. And hey, look, I'm just going to try and get over this quickly. There's some like partisanship associated with this, but it is history. So I'm just going to try and like stick to the facts here. So it was placed under Obama's leadership. The FCC did put this into place. And ISPs were regulated as teleservices industry. Then under Trump's leadership, the FCC removed the net neutrality laws. And so the ISPs could do whatever they wanted. The Biden leadership has just recently reinstated, or I guess the FCC has just reinstated the net neutrality laws again. It is worth stating that it was 2021 Biden put forth an executive order saying that this was a goal that they should be working towards. 3 years later, here we are. Net neutrality's back. Yes, I'm a big fan of that. Yeah. And so I'm a huge fan of it. It is worth noting that maybe you didn't notice that they were removed because some states have net neutrality laws. Unsurprisingly, the companies like AT&T and Verizon are like, this places undue burden on small ISPs and therefore shouldn't be in place. That's awesome. AT&T and Verizon looking out for the little guy. And, obviously consumers and, not just consumers, but also companies who have it in their best interest, like Netflix, Google, Meta, Apple, all want net neutrality laws in place. The reason why they want it in place is because there's a second half of it. So the lack of net neutrality laws allows ISPs to basically, in my opinion, double or triple dip. So you get the obvious one. I'm paying for a set amount of bandwidth. So that's the most that I can consume at any point in time. And then I can dip on the consumer side and say, well, you didn't prioritize your gaming traffic like you didn't prioritize your traffic, so you know you're gonna have to basically wait in line and queue at the router, and there will people like the look, man. Routers can only process so much traffic at one point in time, and it's like based on chipset, not just like what cable did you plug in or what port do you have attached. There's math going on under there that needs to be done.
You mean they're computers?
Yes, they
in
are
those
computers.
little boxes?
They are computers in those
What?
little boxes. That's right. And you know, choosing what like who gets to go in line first is a big thing. You know, in companies a lot of times you say things like phone traffic always goes first. And that's because phone traffic cannot accept that. Just like my gameplay on my Call of Duty or whatever I'm playing cannot accept to wait. Anyway, so they can dip there, right? And then they can dip again on the business side. And they can say, well, Netflix, if you want to make sure that your stuff doesn't buffer, you've got to pay to play because Hulu did pay to play. And guess what? So when video traffic comes up, you know, first among equals, Hulu always goes first. Right. These are just examples. I'm not saying anybody made these deals or anything. These are just examples.
But it makes sense as why it makes sense on why
somebody like YouTube or Google, exactly. Right. Because then YouTube has to, because the alternative is that YouTube either gets equal access as everyone else, or now YouTube has to pay. And, you know, the way that one of those things work is the haves are going to be able to pay and the have nots are not going to be able to pay. And it's going to be harder for smaller services to get up and running. And I don't know. I have a lot of personal feelings about this one, and so I'm going to be careful not to get on my soapbox about it because I'll get really angry and start screaming in everybody's ear, and I'll do my mic will handle it.
We did a great job. You covered everything from head to toe.
I do want to say I think it's funny that for the gaming example you use Call of Duty, which I know you despise.
I hate Call of Duty. It's just. Like whatever, man. Counter-Strike, Fortnite, I don't care. Helldivers is perfect. It doesn't matter. It's just anything where you actually have to care and it isn't turn-based.
Matt, and it's funny. Thank you, Brent, for throwing out the Call of Duty. This is totally off topic, but I just want to throw out here that Bobby Kotick did the same thing with Call of Duty last year, or the year before that. Activision started asking for, hey, if you want our games on your console, you're going to give us a bigger cut of whatever the money was. And PlayStation said, yeah, we'll do it. Fine. And Activision decided that they were going to enforce it like 3 months before, I want to say it was Modern Warfare 2, but it could have been 3. I don't know. And so Xbox didn't have a choice. It was give them the cut.
Yeah, it's forced into it. Yeah, it's a freaking race to the darn bottom, bro. Yeah. And like, that's what it is. It's a race to the bottom until you've extracted as much resource as you can. And hey, look, as like, AT&T and Verizon, yeah, that's my goal. Like, hello, I'm a big company in a capitalist society. My goal is to make money, and not only is it my goal, but if I don't do my best to make as much money as possible, my shareholders are going to take me to court because you are legally obligated to try and extract those resources for your shareholders. That's why they invested, to get money back out, right? So, you know, I guess I personally feel like sometimes it's okay to throw up some guardrails to make sure that they don't have to do absolutely everything necessary to extract that money, right? Maybe sometimes it's just good enough.
Yeah.
Soapbox over. All right.
Soapbox over. All right. Do we want to get to our next?
Let's run it.
Tried and true topic. We've only talked about this how many times over the past?
It's like 5.
I guess 90 million.
I'm gonna hit the button. And TikTok ban a reality? Question mark?
Is it though? So do you want to take it? Do you want me to do it? I don't care. I'll run all these topics tonight.
I mean, if you want me to give the gist and then you can go in depth, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, sure. Run it, bro.
Give it to us.
So I think everyone's heard. I think we even covered it very briefly at one point where they have put a bill, or they had a bill waiting to be signed, waiting to be voted on, all that good stuff, to ban, and they very carefully phrase it now as the Chinese-owned app, TikTok.
That's funny.
Right? Yeah, in most articles now, it's very specific. It's like Chinese-owned app, and I found that funny how they're like really specific about it now. But I think a lot of that
Hearts and Minds campaign, bro.
That's right.
Gotta run
I think
that
a lot of that
propaganda.
confusion though is that like people they see ByteDance, they don't think about the fact that ByteDance
is owned by the Chinese government.
Is owned by the Chinese government, right? So, I think most of these articles now, the press is trying to make sure that people like realize, like, hey, this is why it's a thing, not because it's a social media platform that's just all consuming. It's owned by China, so that's the reason we're concerned with it. But anyways, so they had this bill was in place or being talked about to essentially give them the ultimatum of you guys have to sell to, you have to be a U.S. based company. You have to sell it off to a U.S. based company, or you will be banned from. Well, we will make Google ban them from the Play Store or ban TikTok from the Play Store, and we will make Apple ban it from the Apple Store. That's really what that comes down to. I think it has less to do with the fact that I'm sure probably someone could still sideload it if they really wanted to, if it really comes down to it. But all that to say, this has been passed at this point. This has actually been signed, and they're saying that it's a 12-month time frame that they have to make this happen in now. Is that correct?
I thought it was 9. I may have misread though.
Yep.
Is it 9? Okay.
I'm going to be
9.
that guy. I don't have a link. I'm going to go and I'm going to search for one. But I heard there were rumblings that ByteDance was looking at, hey, we'll sell TikTok, not the algorithm, but we'll sell the platform. How can I have the platform? We'll get rid of it. They don't care about that.
Oh, no.
Right?
Interesting.
So I'm really going to go back and I'm going to look for this.
Yeah,
I saw
go
it on
get
Twitter.
that.
I hope that I saved it. But I just wanted to throw this out here. Like, how scandalous, dude. Like, it's and I also think, Brent, I think you hit something. I mean, you made it very clear. I don't think a lot of people know that ByteDance is owned by the Chinese government. So
they have like a 10% stake or something.
Having that hand in it, right? And also, we are looking at this, the three of us and the people in our industry that care, from a different perspective. Like, we have no choice but to look at it from a security standpoint, with how our jobs work and the different risks that we have. And I can definitely tell where the uproar is coming from, because a mass majority of the people who use this app are not us. They're not people in our industry. I'm not saying people in our industry don't, but they don't have to be concerned about the same things. And I mean, they do, but ignorance is bliss is what I'm getting at here. So anyways, all that to say, good points, gentlemen. Good points.
I think it's two-sided for me, though. I will admit that it's two-sided for me. And a lot of that has to do with having kids. There's the security aspect of it, where you have this very, I don't know, very addictive application. I don't have it on my devices. I don't remember the last time I had TikTok installed on anything of mine. The wife has it. The kids do not, because they're not allowed to have any of that sort of stuff. The sad thing is this, when it comes to TikTok, is whether you have TikTok or not, you are seeing TikTok videos either directly on the platform, if you do happen to have it, or you're seeing it by way of YouTube Shorts or Instagram. How many times have you pulled up an Instagram video or a YouTube Shorts video, and it literally still has the TikTok username on the bottom, where someone has cross-posted it or stolen it even?
I don't care about that. My
daughter... Well, so this is the other side of this I was talking about. So, like, forget about the security side for a second. There's a lot of very influential stuff on there. Like, it just, I mean, a ton of it, because there's so many content creators on it. There's huge followings for a ton of people on that thing. I mean, people are literally making better livings than all three of us combined making content on TikTok. I specifically, what bothers me about that whole process, and this has less to do, I guess, with TikTok and more to just kind of do with the other platforms that allow this to happen. But I made a very intentional decision not to let my kids have TikTok for both of the reasons I'm discussing now. But they're still consuming the content by other avenues, specifically YouTube Shorts, because I still give them a very locked down access, but they still have access to YouTube. But because Shorts is like this outlier service of YouTube, it doesn't really adhere to the same parental controls and stuff that I've got set up elsewhere on YouTube. And they're able to still consume this TikTok content by way of folks cross-posting it. And that just bothers me because I'll be like, hey, where did you learn about that? And she's like, TikTok. And I'm like, well, you don't have TikTok. And she's like, oh, I mean YouTube Shorts. And I'm like,
oh yeah, oh of course, oh yes, awesome.
Yeah, like thanks. I'm glad that you clarified that one, you know, and or even the wife, you know. Now, mind you, some cool things have come out of it, but I'll be like, where did you learn about this like little tip at TikTok? I'm like, oh God. Or we'll be having something wacky for dinner all of a sudden. Where'd you learn about this recipe? TikTok. I'm like, oh man. So it's there's a reason why people are up in arms on both sides of the equation. I mean, it is a absolutely massive platform with a massive community and a massive amount of content. And the payout for creators, at least historically, I don't know what it looks like today, has been pretty good in comparison to other social media platforms or other content creation platforms in general. I mean, there's been other big companies that have had to kind of reset their partner programs to be more in line with what TikTok was offering originally. So they've hooked people, man. I don't know how it'll go.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna go through the court system a bunch. You know what I mean?
Probably.
This ain't done yet. Look, this ain't done yet. And I'm sure that 9 months, a large part of that 9 months was for the court system to do court stuff. I'm willing to bet quite a bit of money that ByteDance is not going to go quietly into the night. You know, once again, you know, let's just start at the top of the list. There's a lot of money to be made here. They don't want to divest, right?
Yeah.
There's more money here than through divestiture, I'm guessing, or else they would have sold. Once again, I personally perceive that, you know, China has a strong desire to maintain their foothold here. And one other thing I just kind of wanted to cover real quick on this and remind everybody is that, you know, Meta and Meta services have been banned in China for years. So yeah, you can't access Meta in China. I think it was like 2015.
Holy crap.
So, you know, we're playing catch up, in my opinion. And I think that's true about Meta. I just looked it up a couple days ago because I also couldn't believe it. Maybe it was 2018 and I'm wrong about that. But I was like, wow, like I looked it up because I was like, oh, here we go, tit for tat stuff again. And then it turns out that, you know, we're already on the freaking tat. The first half of that already happened years ago. And we're just slow on the trigger, couldn't figure it out, don't have an idea of how to stand up for ourselves, I guess, you know? It's like, it sucks. This sucks, right? Like, I'm a big believer in, you know, social media is free speech, you know, type of thing. You know, social media to me is a lot like standing on street corners. You know, things that you would allow to say that you should be allowed to say on street corners are pretty similar to things that you should be allowed to say on social media. There's a lot more than that offers nuance, right? But that's like an easy way I like to think about it. And you know, the idea of like banning other people from hearing other people on street corners is like abhorrent to me. I strongly disagree with it on a fundamental level, but at the same time, you know, like how can we allow our country to just have his data sucked up and, you know, allow someone that is like basically perceived as a hostile nation to some degree or another, you know, just choose what information that's being pushed, you know. Once again, I just like to remind people, I love this example of how powerful social media is, that I think it was in I like to remind people of the Arab Spring that happened. I think it was 5 country governments toppled over the course of like 6 to 9 months. And every single one of them was fueled by social media. Being a huge gathering, overwhelming the government, and then evicting the people who were in charge. And that's really, really powerful. And the social media companies could have stopped the Arab Springs from happening. And perhaps, and I don't want to place any blame here because I don't know, but perhaps the Arab Springs happened because the fans of the flames of revolution were fanned, right? And social media provides a really easy way to fan those flames. And I don't know. It's so dangerous. Like it's crazy because social media and like freedom of speech is so important, but it's also so incredibly dangerous. So I'm very torn. Like yes, TikTok is being banned, but I mean at the same time, like, ooh, TikTok is being banned, right? I would. For
This
one more
generation is
thing.
easily swayed too, though.
Well, I got one more thing, and then I'll put my soapbox away again. I got one more. All right. I personally, instead of seeing a ban on TikTok, I think I would rather see stronger data control laws. And I don't really know what you do with algorithm laws, right? That one's a lot harder, and this kind of solves that problem too. But I think one of the primary problems with TikTok is that they've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar regarding allowing Chinese nationals access to U.S. data, even though they're not really supposed to do that. I think that if we force data to be housed U.S., much like Germany does, then we might see some better results in that area. And I honestly just wish we had more data privacy laws in general. And it makes me really upset that our government doesn't enact those.
Yeah, we are definitely behind on that. I agree with you on that. I think I guess it fits the theme of America, right? Freedom, right? I mean, I feel like no one, they want to control what they need to control as long as it has to do with money. But like, if there's not a clear avenue to that necessarily, which in this case, it's not about the money, it's more about protection. I feel like that's why it's been on the back burner, because I'm sure there's some political party that doesn't quite know how to leverage that yet for profits. So that's the reason why it's not a priority. You know what I mean? Well, now we're getting deep down the rabbit hole though, but I mean,
yeah, honestly,
money is the driver, right? It drives a lot. It drives more, I think, than we are willing to admit. It's kind of scary to think about, because when that's the priority, I mean, everyone's best interest is not. So I don't know.
Some people's are, though.
Some people, yeah.
Yeah.
Just not yours or mine or Gordon's.
I don't know. Hey, look, man, when I owned a company, all the actions that I took were in my best interest, and I was the one trying to get money out of it. So sometimes it can also be, So there you go. Yeah, there's something there too.
Speaking of scummy stuff, do we want to move on to
I want
the last main topic?
I want. Yeah,
all right. So
I've been waiting for this one.
I'm not going to switch. I'm not going to switch the topic yet, because I want to kind of prefix this. I know we don't have anybody super active in chat right now, but I want to say that if you could imagine any game studio or developer or game company, whatever we want to call these folks, pulling digital rights or licensing for a game, who would we put in terms of top 5 list?
Who's going to be number one?
Who's going to be number one?
Who's going to do it? You know who it is.
I just want to throw out, we all know who it is, because
we all know who it is.
All right. This is kind of a little tiny bit of a spoiler, but for me, the first company that pops up is EA. They're not beating the allegations for me. And
I would expect that
the last couple of years, but EA is there.
Oh, you mean the company that ruined a bunch of my favorite freaking games, like Mass
that
Effect
one right there, Matt.
and not Dragon Age, not Digital Ascent, Dragon Age, and who knows what else? Like, ooh, that company makes me mad. They killed BioWare, dog. I'm already a soapbox again. I just slammed my pen down.
All right, so who would be number 2 then?
Can you vote EA twice?
Oh. No, I actually want to do. I think they just their company is they're divesting. Is it Embracer Group? Do you know what they're the guys?
I just saw an article about that they were doing something kind of weird. And I mean, what was that? Maybe
Embracer Group.
And they've made. I look at Embracer Group kind of like this may be wrong, but I look at them as like a ByteDance almost. They're massive, and they've just been not as big as Xbox. So
check this out: 1,400 layoffs, 7 studios closed, 29 games canceled.
Yep.
CEO says, "I deserve a lot of criticism. It's been painful." Yeah, I bet it has, man. Wow, that's really unfortunate. Hey,
and it is unfortunate. The layoffs are unfortunate, terrible. Not making any jokes about that. Just wanted to.
They sold off Gearbox.
Yes, they sold off Gearbox. And they
maybe that's for the better. The last Borderlands wasn't so good.
All right, you know what? Now
Brent and I didn't even finish it.
Oh, come on. It's all right. You know what, Brent? Let's just get back. Let's get back to the main topic here.
All right, I'm going to hit the button so everybody knows.
No, I'll say it also, you
Go
know,
ahead.
there's some other bad ones out there. I'm going to say Ubisoft, you know, out there making me upset.
How'd you know?
Yeah, I know.
How'd you know, Matt?
No, there's other ones out there that are that make me bad too. Bethesda out there making some really questionable decisions these days. Also,
wait,
nothing questionable about that show on Amazon Prime. No,
hold on. But everything I've read is that Bethesda was as hands off as they could possibly be, in that the show producers were going to Bethesda over and over again, saying, "Hey, does this look right? Hey, does this look right? Hey, does this look right?" That's
and Jonathan Nolan, who is for the uninitiated here, Chris Nolan's brother. They've worked on a couple of movies together. The big time guy. Oh, he's probably most known for Westworld. Jonathan Nolan.
Oh wow,
that's his show. And so Jonathan Nolan, they let it out. You know, he played Fallout 4 before he had started Westworld for inspiration, and it was him and one of the other writers on the show, I think. And there are actually direct, I don't want to call them Easter eggs, but Westworld has a couple of like very prominent video game Easter eggs in it. And there are a couple pulled from BioShock, Fallout, all this, that, and the other. And so there's a point right before the show had released where Todd Howard was doing he's doing an interview, and just to cut to the chase, he was like, I don't think I've worked with anybody that's understood Fallout more than the people who are working on this show. And that's like, all right, hey, you said some pretty questionable stuff before, Todd. So we'll take it with a great assault, and we'll walk in and we'll see what's up. And he was not playing no games. That feels like it was made in-house at Bethesda. It is a fantastic show. It's great.
Yeah,
I don't know how we got here.
That's fire. I was accusing Bethesda as being somebody who would possibly pull the licensing. And hey, look, I'm really mad at Bethesda, right? What
about Ubisoft?
Well, okay. We'll go back. All right, I'm mad at Ubisoft. I guess I'm disappointed. I'm sorry. I'm disappointed in Ubisoft. I'm not mad at Ubisoft. I'm mad at Bethesda, but I'm disappointed in Ubisoft's decisions here. Brent, I'll let you go ahead and run with it from here if you want.
I can. So I guess they shut down the Crew, the original The Crew.
Mm-hmm.
What? How long has it been now? It's been a couple weeks.
It's a decade. Oh, sorry. The original Crew was released a decade ago.
Released a while ago.
It shut down the 31st of March.
Right.
And not just shut down, but they ripped it from your library.
Yep.
So you cannot download the executable anymore. Even if you could figure out how to hacksaw some server in there for you to use or something.
Yep. And apparently, like, there'd been communities already rallying to essentially have like fan servers and stuff like that and reverse engineer it with no indication from Ubisoft that they were going to do this specifically, like they were going to pull the licensing. So
there's a lot of salt here, man. We've talked about this a lot. Like, I went through our show notes. I wasn't able to find a specific show where we talked where I had show notes that said, you know, this specifically, but I feel like this about like what is game licensing and why is it bad came up in game descriptions. That's episode 0002.
Good
0002. Yeah. And then I'm thinking it almost certainly came up in early access video games and live service video games, because I like to complain about this subject. I know Sean likes to complain about this subject. So those were episodes 0010 and 0011. So there's 3 episodes about gaming. If you're liking this topic, go check them out. You can hear me complain more about video game licensing, and I will sound like a prophet or Sean, I think maybe Sean will sound like a prophet talking about how wrong it is that we are licensed and that we do no longer own the games, and how disrespectful it is of companies to, like, I think The Crew had a lot of DLC with it. Like, I think The Crew is one of those games you could spend a couple $100s on. And for somebody to take that from me, basically, it's really upsetting. It's part of what I think is going to become a worrying trend in the industry. And all I want to do is throw this pen I have in my hand against the wall right
I'll
now.
tell you,
I'm
look,
really upset.
You know, Matt, what helps me not be upset about this?
What is that?
In my library, 95% of my games library is digital. All right. And the thing that makes me feel really good about this, all right, or not good, but allows me to sleep at night, okay? If I don't own my digitally purchased games, then it ain't piracy if I don't pay for them, all right? It ain't piracy. The logic don't check out to me. You can't tell me one is true without the other not also being true. All right.
You will not get me to say on like you will not get me to say that piracy like straight up isn't theft. But you know, I would say if I don't own the product, then what is piracy? Is it theft? Is it something different?
Who knows?
Is it like something else? Like, yeah, I honestly like, I guess, honestly, I feel like it becomes piracy becomes something that is defined differently than theft. It's like it's like a subgenre of theft that comes with different problems, like the same way that robbery and armed robbery are different things, right?
Let me ask you guys a question here, all right? Because normally there are reasons that people are doing this, right? There are reasons that these big, you know, Ubisoft or EA, even if they don't make sense to us, there's a reason for them.
They just released a new Crew game.
Oh, is that it? Did they really?
Yeah, I think they named it The Crew.
Well, I think it's truly The Crew too, is it not? I feel like it was The Crew too.
I think it's The Crew.
I didn't validate. I saw it was named, like I guess I did not look, but I saw that they released something named The Crew and that they delisted the decade-old game, and I was like, oh, well, I guess they wanted to move over their player base, much like Overwatch wanted to move everybody to Overwatch 2.
So I'm assuming that's one assumption that I have, but I also assume that they have to be like probably spending money, right, on like keeping those servers alive, and it's probably not a good.
But this ain't about that. So they could delist those servers, and I still think that they could. I think that they could offer something. And look, I don't know how feasible it is, but like, man, there's a big difference between like I ripped it from your library and it's in there and it can't run.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, The Crew 2 was 2018. The new one is The Crew Motorfest. That's the one that was released last year, 2023.
Thank God we have that separation there.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, you know what I'm saying? So, given that math, so what does that mean? Here in about 4 years, The Crew 2 will also be pulled from your library because it'll be the 10-year mark.
The funny thing is when I first heard that The Crew was being super delisted, they've done this with a couple other games, not to this extent. I think Spec Ops is the last game that was delisted. If you had it in your library, it was not being pulled from your library. You still have access to that. I got a couple games in my in my library that are from like Activision's golden days before they, swapped over to
EA.
Call of Duty all day, every day, right?
Were they EA? No, they're not EA. I'm sorry. They're Activision. It's Activision Blizzard. Blizzard. Microsoft.
Blizzard.
Sorry. Microsoft.
No,
Blizzard Activision, I think, is the proper way to phrase that.
You know what, Matt? They're all acting they're all behaving the same way. So at this point, I feel like it's okay. Right? And that was the crazy thing to me is I thought this was just a delisting from stores, not a delist and also yanking it out of your.
I'm pretty sure it's a yank this time. Now I don't have The Crew.
You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Is a yank. Yeah.
So, I'm just going to say my reaction to this is that maybe stores like Epic and Steam are the wrong choice. And maybe stores like GOG are the right choice. GOG's got a launcher. You know what else GOG does? GOG has DRM-free games. GOG produces everything in single package little like installers.
Go ahead, tell them, Matt. Go ahead.
And so if you had The Crew and you bought it through GOG, then, theoretically, if you could find a way to like run it offline without needing to, connect into servers, I just feel like somebody's probably figured this out somewhere. If you found a way to access that knowledge, then you could still have The Crew and you wouldn't need to buy The Crew Motorfest. Sorry, I'm so mad. I'm so mad about this. I don't even own the game. I'm just like offended.
We gotta be mad. We gotta be mad. This is something I don't think I was mad enough early I wasn't mad early.
Like,
enough
how
about it.
long until they delist my Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas? Like, Fallout, like,
I got 200 digital games, man. Like, these
I've
are
got
not,
more than that, bro.
I know. Are you going to refund me? Xbox?
No.
Steam? No. So, like, what are we? It's a very scary time. It's like, I don't want to, now I want to start buying hard copies again. But with
they
the way
are
that things are working as we
no.
move forward, they're starting to fizzle out. So it's like, unless you're getting a hardcore AAA release, and even then, Alan Wake 2 is a perfect example. Alan Wake 2 was a fantastic game, and it did not get a physical release. And I get it, Remedy is a little smaller, but and I know this is not net neutrality, but in the same way, it's in today's gaming atmosphere, it's a lot harder to be a smaller developer and make games that appeal to enough people to make money, right? So it's just weird, and it's really hard to like not like, damn, the future is bleak.
I mean, for your typical consumer though, I mean, if it's a live service game, it doesn't matter whether they've got a physical copy or not, because they're not going to be the ones that go and find this fan hosted server or community, created server anyways.
Yeah.
That's the sad thing about it, is like, they truly, that's it for them. It's gone. And the amount of stuff that you get these days, there's game boxes at like Walmart and stuff that essentially doesn't even have anything in it. It's a piece of paper with a code.
It's a piece of paper with a freaking code. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the Starfield goddamn collector's edition I bought came with a steelbook case,
come with digital
no
code.
disc. And it was a digital code. But the cool thing is it came on like a credit stick from the game. It was actually like a hard, it was probably
that's pretty
more
cool.
expensive.
All right,
so that
that's
was pretty
cool.
It's like, I got a
That's
little
pretty
credit stick.
cool.
It
It still
that's
sucks.
the only collector's edition that's done that, where it's like, this ain't really the disc, but I've got something in its place that is kind of okay. That's cool. It still don't, if they decide to delist the game, that stupid little credit stick thing ain't gonna allow me to play the game. You know what I mean? So really, it's the same. It's just stupid, man. This is so stupid.
I mean, I it also cracks me up too, because I try on like my PS5 for the most part, especially if I can get a good deal on it. If there's just a really good digital deal like in their store, I'll go ahead and buy it in there, because oftentimes there is. But if I'm able to grab a disc of something, I'd much rather have that these days. But what's funny to me is like, I almost have to plan for that even more, because it takes forever to install a game on the PS5. You put the disc in, that thing sounds like a 747 spinning up, and you do just as much installation. It's literally like the good old days of throwing in a CD-ROM in your computer and going by like disc to disc, installing the game. That's how I feel like the PS5 is these days. And then once it's installed, it's like, oh, you've got 6 patches. By the time it's all said and done, I might as well have just downloaded it from the PlayStation Store. It would have been quicker over my gigabyte or gigabit internet. Like, why did I buy the disc? I had to have something tangible in my hands, but
Which is a great point, Brent, which is why that's where I've kind of gotten. I'm not going to go and buy a live service game on physical disc, because that just doesn't make no damn sense. By the time I get it, especially if it's on sale 6 months down the line, the amount of I'm saying the same thing, right? So you got to be selective, and then sometimes it feels like we're not selective enough. You know what I mean? So it's like that. I don't want to say FOMO. You know what? Never mind.
But even the not live service games, man, like after, I don't know what, 3 to 6 months, they've got a significant amount of patches.
You know what? To your point, that Fallout 4 patch that just dropped today, I think there was
I'm
like
mad
a 50
about
gig
that.
update.
I'm mad about that, Pat.
Oh god.
Yeah, you are right, man.
Who's Fallout 4 again? Who did you say you were mad at earlier?
I'm mad at everybody. You know what? I'm most mad at EA for killing BioWare and making them die. That's who I'm the most angry at.
We got another Dragon Age coming. And we got
Whatever.
Mass
I don't
Effect
care, bro. I don't care. You know what? I didn't play Inquisition. And I didn't play Andromeda because both of them reviewed. Both of them reviewed terrible. Exactly. Yeah. Look, and 2 definitely was Mass Effect 2 was definitely not as good as Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 3 was the worst of them all. And Dragon Age, and Dragon Age 2 had a much poorer spell system than Dragon Age 1. It was altogether inferior game.
Over Mass Effect 2 and 3. That is crazy. Oh boy.
Yeah, especially I sure did. Especially like pre-ending patch when like you basically when every choice you've made in the last 3 games didn't matter at all, and it came like all down to a little yes no question at the very end of the game. Like, bro, terrible. Why did you kill BioWare? They were so good for so many years. They were the pinnacle of RPG.
You know what I was always hoping for with BioWare? And tell me if you remember this one. This is an oldie but a goodie. But I loved it so much. Jade Empire.
Yeah, Jade Empire was amazing.
Phenomenal BioWare.
It was a great game. It was a fantastic.
Jordan, you would have been probably like 5 years old when.
Yeah, I think what was? Let me see. It was a third person like martial arts combat RPG. And it had an extensive story and RPG system associated with it, along with like solid third person martial arts combat that was not a Souls-like experience, as far as I recall.
It came out in April of 2005.
Man, what a good game.
And it was exclusive to Xbox when it dropped.
And
they later pushed it to the PCs. I do own it on PC, but it does not hold up very, very well. But I do have it in the EA store or whatever it is these days. It used to be Origin, right? Whatever the new one is.
They rebranded to Origin or the EA store. Yeah, you're right.
Whatever
Origin,
it is.
They rebranded.
So there is a PC version of it. You can go and play. Heck, I think you can still go buy it. I think it's actually in Steam now that I'm looking at it. For $15. There you go. You can go check it out. Phenomenal game if you get past just the fact that it's
2005 graphics.
Pretty daggone old at this point. Yeah, there's not a whole bunch of anti-aliasing and anastrophic filtering that you can really do to this thing. It is what it is texture-wise. And it was essentially ported from the original Xbox to the PC. So
yeah.
Oh, that was problem numero uno there. I've learned my fair share. I picked up an Ally last year. It's great for travel. I started, you know what? I don't want to say that on the stream. I didn't say nothing.
He started Leisure Suit Larry or whatever it was.
Yeah, there you go.
That was definitely not Laser Shoot Larry. I acquired some games, and they were from that generation of the original Xbox, and I learned very quickly that those games don't play well when they're literally just ripped and ported. Right, they need a special. You can't do anything. There's no playing the game. They don't transfer over well, even if you've got a controller in hand, which doesn't always make sense to me. Anyways, just to your point, Brent, of it not being. I can't speak well tonight. All right, I'm sorry.
Ports. I'm gonna air quote it because ports aren't so much ports anymore as they used to be.
Absolutely,
they've gotten so good now because a PlayStation 5 is very, very close to a computer. It's using AMD chipsets. An Xbox is very close to a computer because it's using the same chipsets. So the code execution layer is so similar now that they don't have to do a lot of work. The most work that developers are doing now is, I was developing for this one chipset and this one GPU. Now I have to make it work on 700 of them and make it work well on all of them and give people options between graphics settings and stuff like that. That's where they struggle.
I feel like that's got to be really hard. I feel like you said all they got to do there, and I feel like that's
the struggle, Doc. For a reason.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed the sarcasm on. I was like, dang, dude, you giving them a rough ride. I feel like it actually. It's really hard.
And the translation to keyboard and mouse a lot. The developers, when they are really hardcore controller based, it's hard for them sometimes to figure out. Okay, well, how do we move this to another platform or another user input, if you will.
Look, even when they do it well, I still feel like it's really painful. A perfect example of that is Elden Ring. Elden Ring plays great on the controller. It's
clunky.
I found it to be unplayable on the computer. And I felt that way about like Dark Souls 3-2 playing it on the computer was like, oh, I feel like I can barely move. I just move in these static 8 directions and that's it. And I die because of it. That's not true. I die because, I failed to get good, if you will. But, I can blame it on my MKB also. I'd prefer to.
Thanks for listening to episode 0024. We appreciate the ears you lend. And if you really like us, Come hang out in our Discord. We talk to people sometimes. We post news up all the time. It's the greatest way to get in contact with myself, Brent, Matt, and Sean. Just come say hi. Tell us how you're feeling, what you think about what we got to say. Or just come and lurk. That's cool too.
Yeah, I also will plug the Discord. Come on in there. You know, we've got some really cool people in there. I know a bunch of people in there who are really smart. So, you know, if you're into IT and things like that, then, you know, or just tech stuff or anything we're talking about, come on in there. Also, I just want to say we're gonna be doing more of these live streams. We're gonna start trying to do like 1 or 2 of them a month. We'll see how it goes. At least one, and you know, we're hoping to, you know, see more people eventually. And, you know, please come and join us. So thanks for listening. We appreciate it.
Thanks, folks.
Now, yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Ascent podcast. Check us out at digitalascent.tech and join us on Discord. Until next time, take care.